Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is Simply Haley here. Um, and so I wanted to come on here today. I'm gonna take my seatbelt on. So I wanted to come on here today to talk about a little bit. This would probably be, part one, and I'm not gonna necessarily name it in the title as parts. It'll just kind of be like an ongoing topic. But something, ooh, better yet, I got something for you. Okay, it just hit me. Because the main reason, okay, let me tell you why. First of all, I jumped on camera. One, I wanted to talk about, or maybe give a reason why I have not really been posting, or why my posting on this channel and my building of this channel has really been inconsistent. It has been, and it's not that I don't think my channel is important. I think it's important. A big reason I haven't really been posting anything is fear. Fear has held me back a lot. And, I just turned 33 this year. And I've been doing some deep self-reflection. My mother has been dead for over a year now, as well as my grandmother. And I live with those two. And took care of them, provided for them. And now that it's just Haley that I'm having to look after and having to care for. It's a very odd position to be in. And I know that sounds weird, because putting myself first does not naturally, it doesn't come naturally to me. I'm going to be honest with you. For the first couple of months, I want to say after my mother died, I'd say almost up to a year, till my mother and grandmother died, up to a year. It was a tough struggle, and I'm slowly starting to break some of those habits, and I'll definitely get into that once I start the parentification series, and it'll be called Surviving Parentification, because I don't think enough of the parentified children who are now adults come out and talk about the lasting impact that being a parentified child has had on us. In particular, when you're a woman, in particular, when you're a Black woman, and in particular, when you're the oldest child of your group of siblings, right? But the main thing, or really the biggest reason I haven't been posting, is because there's a piece of me that still deep down wants to protect, my mother and my grandmother, and to some extent my stepfather and my biological father, because I was very much raised with this mentality. You don't talk about what goes on in our house. And it wasn't like it was horrible, but there was definitely financial abuse in the home. Although I never saw it, my mother did tell me about an incident between her and my stepfather that turned physical. But like I said, I never saw any bruises, and I never saw him get physical with her. She said we were at school at the time, and I'm not going to too much get into that. But it's like I said, it's a piece of me, and I have to keep almost reassuring myself. Me telling my truth does not mean I don't love them, or I didn't love them. And part, I think, of being a parentified child, of some of the things that I have kind of read and seen here with some of the psychiatrists and people here on YouTube that talk about it, is that's a piece of it, is being almost protective, because you don't want your actions, and I know I may not be necessarily articulating it the best, is that, and I'll use just me as a prime example. I had to learn how to navigate my mother's feelings. Like it was almost in a sense that I was responsible for her emotional well-being, in the sense that a lot of my feelings, and I think that's the reason why I gained a lot of weight, why my cortisol levels were just through the roof. I almost feel like my receptors are damaged, and it's going to take probably like 4 to 5 years to get them back functioning properly. And that's just me. I haven't been evaluated for like by an endocrinologist, anything like that. That's just my speculation, right? But anyway, I felt, I don't want to say almost felt, I felt responsible for managing, especially when I was younger, managing my mother's emotions. Like, you know, and I, you know, it especially during my teen years, when you transition in from middle school to high school, you know, I was the awkward kid. I had three friends in high school, and I was blessed to have them because they were really, really cool cats, right? And I just, you know, on one occasion in particular that just sticks out in my mind was just going to my mother and being like, hey, I'm feeling like an outcast, and you know, I'm just feeling like a weirdo, and it's just like, and I'm just trying to have this conversation, and it was just like, well, how do you think I felt? And when I was in high school, and I had, and that's how those, and I won't say sessions, she wasn't a therapist, but that is how a lot of the conversations went when I tried to navigate or try to talk about my feelings and things, or, you know, try to give my 2 cents. It was, well, you shouldn't be angry. Why are you angry? Why are you feeling this way? Because when I, like, it was almost, you know, at the time I didn't have the terminology for it. I didn't know what it was. And it was almost like, now we, you know, I would refer to it probably as like the oppression Olympics. Like, you shouldn't have any emotions of anger, sadness, despair, feeling like an outcast because I went through this when I was in high school, so therefore your feelings are invalid. And so that's how I felt for a long time, was my feelings are invalid, you know. And also became, you know, a chronic people pleaser. Like, I'm overcoming that. I'm doing better than what I used to do, but I find it difficult at times trying to maintain it's almost like a balancing act. Like, I don't want to be a super duper asshole, but I refuse to go back to my people pleasing ways. And like I said, once I'll get into the surviving parentification series, because although there's a lot of cons to it, I do find some pros in it. But you know, I didn't mean to necessarily venture off topic, but this is some of the conversation and topics that I would love to have on this channel. And one of the things that, like I said, has really stopped me is fear. Because even though they are, my mother and my mother primarily is, and my grandmother, like I said, even though they are deceased, I still have this visceral reaction to protect. And I've always had that sense of, I have to protect her emotion. I have to protect how she feels. I have to protect. And that's a heavy burden to have as a child, you know, because, and I thank God for fortifying me, because what it was is, I think a lot of people in my sphere, I don't want to say circle, because my mother was my world. You know, before she got sick, I would joke and be like, you know, you and I have a very codependent relationship. And this is as I was coming close to 30. Like, it took that long to kind of start to be able to kind of step out and to kind of explore a little bit of, this is what Haley is feeling. Because, you know, I really put my life on hold, and I don't want to start crying, you know. And I'm just at the point in my life where I have to call a thing a thing. And it's like, I put my life on hold to come in, and I almost want to say it was not my choice. Now, would I have let them be out on the street and destitute? Of course not. I don't think we need to catastrophize it. But at the same time, it wasn't my choice. It was a guilt trip. Let me take you down the guilt trip road. And that was so unfair. It was so unfair to me. And like I said, at the time, I didn't have the verbiage. I didn't have the the mindset. It was so much that I didn't have, and it's looking, kind of examining that relationship with my mother and in the household with my stepfather, my brother, the absentness of my biological father, that I'm examining it in a sense that this is what laid the foundation of who you were and why at times you were so easy for the picking of to be of the, and I don't want to say a victim, because nothing I would say horrible has happened to me, thank God. But in a sense, and this is one thing, and this is one of the pros, I almost want to say, of parentification, or almost helicopter parenting, because my mother did keep me and my brother like inside, you know, and he's dealing with it in his own way. It's the way some of the things have played out in his life as a result of that kind of holding tight. But at the same time, given all of the circumstances that molded me at the time, I would have been, Lord have mercy, I would have been ripe. I mean, ripe for a narcissist picking. I would have been the perfect victim, the perfect pawn. I mean, I'm telling you, I would have been I feel like almost, just given how I was, I'd say even 6-7 years ago, had I been one for the street, I probably would be dead. But I'm so thankful to God, I never had a taste for being out in the street. My personality, that's just not my scene. And I thank God for that, because given my chronic people pleasing personality, I probably wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have seen 30. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Given the wolves that roam out here looking for folks, my low self-esteem, I wore it. You would have seen it. So, and I think even when I talk about the coworker story, they saw it. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that low self-esteem, people pleasing, it carries an essence. Like I said, we can get into that in another video, but really ultimately fear, because I'm still, and I'm fighting against it so much. I'm fighting against it so much. Even with clearing out things in the house, it's like, oh, I don't want to throw that away. That's, you know, that's, get rid of that, because, you know, mama don't, you know, it's like, she's gone. Like, stop. Like, I'm telling you, that's how entrenched. And I know it's going to take some time. And I know it's going to take some time. And I feel like it's a slow build. But really, that's the reason I wanted to get on here. I'm not going to be too lengthy with this video, but I'm thankful for the subscribers. I thank you guys for coming to the content. And I just want you to know, I haven't thrown away the channel. Is right now I'm battling some internal struggles, you know, and I would love to jump on here and just go wild, because I can. But that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.